Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. From time immemorial, we have been hearing that judicial branch of the government is the most respected one because of its absolute objectivity, its appreciation of the realities, and that's why justice is a figure with a balance, showing that there is equity and the eyes are blindfolded. It doesn't recognize high or low, rich or poor. But when we find judges, especially those belonging to the higher echelons, give judgments that violate all canons of decency, that are absolutely abhorrent, then what wonders what's gone wrong where? Recently, a High Court judge, that is Mumbai High Court, and its bench at Nagpur gave a judgment. The judge was a lady, and that's what is still painful. That this lady judge said that sexual assault is only when there is a skin to skin contact. So, a person who is molesting a woman is not guilty of sexual assault. And when that woman happens to be a 12-year-old girl, imagine the case. A 12-year-old girl is going to buy fruit and the man meets her and she knows him because they live in the same locality. She calls him uncle. This 39-year-old says, okay, why are you going? Come up. I'll give you guavas. And the child goes with the person. He takes her to a room, presses her breast, and then tries to remove her salwar. Salwar is the Indian version of a pen. And she cries. Since it's a highly populated locality, the man immediately locks her up and leaves. While coming down the stairs, he meets the mother of the child and says, well, when the mother asks, well, have you seen my daughter? She has been gone for a long time. He says, no, I haven't. Anyway, the cries of the child reach the mother. And the man, he shouts, people come. They open the locked door. The girl is found inside and she blames him for assaulting. The man is arrested and sent to jail. And the judge says, no, he's not guilty of molestation because he was pressing and he had not as yet penetrated her vagina. And according to judge, no, I quote, the act of pressing breast of a child aged 12 in the absence of any specific detail, whether the top was removed or whether he inserted his hand inside the top and pressed a breast would not fall under the definition of sexual assault. Stupid and ridiculous. I was outraged when I read this and I called people up. As a result, today I learned that the Supreme Court has stayed the order. What Supreme Court should have done is, it can't terminate, but they should have done is seen to it that he doesn't hear or she doesn't hear any other case. Now, the FIR, first time police took action. India is notorious for rapes and sexual assaults. And the child sexual assaults are increasing. There have been cases when babies have been sexually assaulted, when children 5 and 6 have been sexually assaulted. And here it was a 12-year-old girl. One is given to call out the judge of the High Court. Why? She gave this retrograde statement and order that the child is molested but cannot be considered a victim of attempted rape Now, when an attempt is there, how can there be attempt would be secondary, and attempt cannot be until and unless he has tried something else. The removal of the clothing would be a second stage. And if the skin to skin contact is there, that means the assault has taken place. So it's not an attempt. Possibly the judge doesn't know the difference between attempting and doing. So she says that proportionately he should not be punished, and she reduces his punishment to a man. Then imagine she goes further and says that she just 12-year old, she is not having mental intelligence to blame a person. A child who has been molested doesn't have a intelligence to say, well, this and this person has molested me and he has pressed my breast and tried to remove my salwa. The whole thing, the whole thing smacks of either corruption or stupidity. Now, as far as the jurisprudence is concerned, as far as the sexual crimes are concerned, there has been a gross insensitivity. And in this case, I would like to mention that the comments made by Samar, the friend, are even so amazing. For example, when Shashihanda comments that it's disgusting, yes, it is. The Pinzar says that Indian judicial the BJP has achieved new milestones. Why blame BJP? There have been cases much before BJP came into power. It's individual judges do it. And blaming the government is not at all something which is desirable. Let's not politicalize the issue. I'll show you the examples when the judges in the time of those times when the BJP was not in power were making such stupid statements. And then there's an excellent comment by Kapil Bhutani. He says, can the judges not be challenged? Yes, they can be challenged, and that the Supreme Court has done something. The main thing is that ways of punishing. A judge can be asked to recuse himself or herself. And in one case, what was done was that the Chief Justice gave an order that we cannot remove a judge except by impeachment. So let's not give any case to the judge. So judge would come and go without doing any work and keep on getting the salary. But then it's a preposterous judgment. One very interesting point was raised by our friend Singh Jaspa. He says, well, this might be one of the rare cases. The judge sir might have done some blunder. Yes, it's a blunder. But this is not the only case. In State versus Vijinder in 2014, a Delhi High Court judge acquitted a man when a 7-year-old girl testified that he had taken her into a bathroom by force, slapped her, tore her jeans. And then the judge said, well, tearing the clothes is not a process of sexual assault because sexual act did not take place. Now look at it. In one case, the judge is saying that the removal of the clothes is not a sexual assault. The other says skin to skin contact should not be there. There's another case, again at Nagpur, that until and unless the girl shouts or fights like a wild animal, the man is not guilty. A 14-year-old girl was acquitted. I mean, the rapist was acquitted because, according to the judge, the girl did not fight like a wild animal and quietly surrendered. Karnataka High Court judgment was there that a girl who was raped went to sleep. And the judge said, how can a girl go to sleep after that? Whole thing is absolutely stupid. Another judge of the state of Kerala states child prostitution is not rape, and he acquitted 35 men who had gang raped a child in 1990s using that logic. The Pinder at that time, it was not BJP in power 1990s, you remember that. And then, he had been filmed without his knowledge by a hidden camera when he made this statement to media. Then there's another judge, Bhatt, and Bhatt was a judge in Delhi High Court, and he said that most of the women consent to being raped, have sex, and then they blame the person for rape. Again, ridiculous. Consensual sex and rape are two different things. So this shows that what this judge, Pushpa, in Nagpur did was not an exception. The majority of the judges are honest, clear, but there is definitely a sizable segment which is not judicious enough to give judgments. Now comes another case. There was another case, interestingly, in Madras, I must not say, Mr. Justice Devdas, he said that if a person has raped a girl, he should be asked to marry her. That's it. You rape a girl, and then the only punishment is you marry her. Would that be fit enough? A. B. Would that marriage be happy? Again, that is stupid. This was another Chief Justice of India, Markande Katsu. He is even now coming in. He said that if a man marries a second time, the woman is not liable to claim post-marital sex as rape, and she's a mistress and a keep and cannot get the maintenance. Whole thing. And then, there's another judge, Nandraj and Pradeep Nandarjok. And they said a person, a girl who is raped, if she immediately doesn't go to the police, is guilty. Now, this is a traumatic experience for anybody. And going to the police is, in India at least, I know, is not an easy job. The way the police officers treat these women, especially at the local level, is horrible. As a matter of fact, when a girl is raped in India, she's not raped once, she's raped 4 or 5 times. First by the criminal, then by the police, when there's a verbal rape, another rape. Then in the court, when the crude questioning is and cross examination is done, and so on. So the whole thing stinks. Now, coming to the judgment which we started with, skin to skin contact. Now, let's assume that a person has been raped, a girl has been raped, but then the rapist was wearing condom. So, skin to skin contact is not there. Would the person be guilty or not? According to this judgment, the person would not be guilty. If you remember that Nirbhaya case, rods and organ inserted in her vagina, was that a rape? Because there was no skin to skin contact in that case. Then I take the analogy further. Somebody suffocates a person, strangulates, but he's wearing gloves. Now, wearing gloves, He is strangulated, but there's no skin to skin contact. Gloves are in between. So he can say, well, look here, I did strangulate him, but I'm not guilty because there's no skin to skin contact. So rapists can go off by saying, then look at condom was there, so there's no skin to skin contact. Why should I be punished? And a murderer can say, well, I was wearing the gloves. And not only that, imagine it. A thief can say, well, I didn't commit a theft, I was wearing gloves. Let's not forget a woman's bodily integrity and then control has not been the base for a legal framework for a long time in India. For a child, there never was a separate law till recently. And the child, when it goes to a court of law, is frightened, crying, unable to describe the nightmarish experience. And judges are so impudent and incapable of not understanding the mental torture that the child has undergone. This is something shocking. You remember in 1972, a young Adivasi girl in Maharashtra, just 14-year-old, was gang raped. Where? Inside a police station. And the Supreme Court released the police officers saying there was absence of protest and visible mark on her body showing consent. And then they say, since his advice, they keep on committing, having sex earlier in life. How stupid. And this was the Supreme Court of India which made this judgment. For decades, the term eve teasing has been used to describe mental sexual harassment. Eve, the biblical figure who tempted man with her sexuality to eat the forbidden fruit, therefore presumed as born to be teased. This is a fate to be teased. Indian politicians would say, well, if rape takes place, boys will be boys. Or they would say the women tempt the men, seductress. Is ever this country going to be sensible enough and conscious enough and sensitive enough to understand the pain and the misery of these girls? I wrote once an article that the home is the most unsafe place for most of the girls because cousins, uncles, aunts, and then extended family, anybody. And in some cases, even the fathers and the brothers have raped these girls. But today, my concern, my glows is with the judges. They are supposed to give exemplary punishment so that not that one rape has taken place, so that others may not take place. And when they say, well, this 14-year-old girl submitted to the sex by the police officers, she was terrified. So since she did not resist, she's not, the people are not guilty. They should know that even consensual sex before the age of 16 is a crime because the child is not able to understand that. But it was not consensual. She was forced, and not one. About 8 officers raped her one after that. That was a gang rape, police gang. And here, a man tempts her, whom she calls her uncle, takes her in, pets her breast, and she goes back. And the judge, and at that to a women judge herself, releases the person. So when I talked to the Chief Justice on phone, he showed some action, and I was happy to read in the morning that the judgment has been put on hold. But such judges don't deserve to be judges. So what we need in India is an overhaul of judiciary. And as a matter of tutorial for the judges and for the police to attune them to the psychology of women who are victims. This vulnerable section of society, which is more than 50%, almost 52%, is exploited, ravished, raped, and they cries are lost in wilderness. And if 90% women don't even complain and 10% who complain are, as I said, raped again and again, sometimes physically and sometimes mentally. And then the moral degradation. A person who is raped is not given with, looked upon with regard, with compassion, with mercy. No, they blame the person who has been raped. But such judgments add further pain and agony to these people. Let's be judicious. Let's be honest. Let's be compassionate. For that way lies the salvation of the people and the salvation of the country. Thank you.